start the whole thing.
All right, we'll start off from the beginning. Last night I had an insight. It was essentially that I am no more myself than I am anyone else. I am just as much myself as I am anyone else. So to go into this further, to make sense of this, the question arises, well, you're you and I'm me. How could you say that you're no more yourself than you are me, or that you are just as much me as I am me? Well, this is more, that's like, these are the words that come along with the experience that I'm trying to describe. It's a bit of a, it's like, how do you know what it feels like to breathe while you have the experience? So the experience that I had was that of, you could call it a disassociation from the body. But, it's like, well, yeah, it's not quite a disassociation from the body. It was more of a recognition of self, in a sense. But it wasn't, the self, that that we commonly identify with. Because, what is the self? Well, the self is what we identify with. Well, how do we come to identify with the self? And what are we if we choose to not identify with the self? Or what if there is no choice and we're not aware of that there's a choice to identify with the self? Are we still self? Well, what is that self? And these are, words that are gonna not land on many people's ears and make any sense, because it's like, what the fuck is he talking about? I'll try not to argue too much with myself as I'm doing this, because, I hear the sort of the voices of the world as I'm talking about this, and it's, it's like, language sort of, makes us want to explain ourselves to the part of ourselves that doesn't get it. So, who is the world? Well, the world apparently is the part of my brain that doesn't quite get what I'm talking about. Anyhow, so
That's well said.
Yeah. So to go back to it, my original experience, and that's all I'm doing, is I'm really just trying to document an experience. It was the sense that I had identified with this character, this person with a name. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want my name on the internet. But we'll call myself Ritom for the purposes of this. I had identified with this person named Ritom. And and it's not like I've not had similar experiences like this before, but in this sense, in this time, I had experienced it more, felt it in a new angle of it. And it was more in relationship, not just only to myself, of realizing, I am not Ritom. I am not this person that, people believe me to be. It was more like, I am just as much Ritom as I am the people that I see walking around. I am not Ritom, just as much as I am not the people that I see walking around in the street. I am experiencing something. Who's I? I don't know. But there's an experience happening here. and it wants to identify with the location. So is the experiencer the location of the experience? So where's the location? Well, the location is this, body that, this thing that we call a body. So the temptation is to, what is a principle of science? Correlation does not equal causation. So the correlation here is there's an experience and it's happening in a location, or it appears to be happening in a location. And the location appears to be, right here. But is it? And how can I be certain of that? And, this is all like, mental words to describe the feeling. The feeling was much more pure and, with less complexity. But to, try to describe it, it was like I was, it was like I was viewing myself as a stranger. Because I'm just as much a stranger to myself as I am a stranger to the people of this world. So it was like I was viewing myself as if I was some person passing by me on the street. And I realized I don't know who this is. I don't know this person. There's a story about this person that I've identified with. He's had a mother, he had a father, he had these grandparents, he had these friends in his childhood. But who is that, really? I don't know. And who are these people that walk by me? I don't know them. And they don't know me. And they don't know themselves. All I know is this experience. And it was like I started seeing, that's weird, started seeing just like the most, it was more real than this world itself. Like this world all of a sudden seemed extremely, gossamer, without substance. And I started seeing not with my eyes, but I started seeing with my feeling. And in my feeling, I saw a different world. There's a different world than this world that I have known and that we've all come to know. And it was like all of a sudden I was free to no longer identify with this character who I've agreed to play, and this character who the world has decided that I am. And how do I gain this freedom is in realizing, even though they've, a decision appears to have been made about who this character is, no one really actually knows who that character is. It's like we've signed a contract, but no one read the contract. We all, say we all assume that we know what's in the contract, but no, we don't. We don't know what's in the contract. You have relationships with people. You think they know what they mean. You think what you mean. No one has any fucking idea. No one knows what the fuck they're talking about. No one knows who they are. No one knows who you are. None of us really know anything. And within that is the freedom to find who it is that you really are, without any of this, any of the verbiage, without any of the suppositions, presuppositions, and the assumptions. So, anyhow, I'm just sort of.
Can I angle on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
To make it simple, really basic, simple terms. We look at children learn
Yeah.
to identify themselves as, let's say your last name is Smith. I am a Smith.
Right.
My name is Josiah Smith.
Yeah.
Who is Josiah Smith anyhow? So that's my name, Josiah Smith. And so now that's what I am, because I marked that and put my thumbprint on that. That's me. We now have a bond. We're married.
Yeah.
This idea, now I go out on a date, I kiss a girl, and she slaps me because she was of a sect where you're not allowed to kiss until after you're married. And so from her point of view, I just took her holiness, her innocence. Now, I'm now evil, Josiah Smith, from her point of view.
Right. And then you have to sort of decide if you agree with that, version of yourself or not, or if she it's just like part of an, holding an incorrect opinion.
Or move away from that culture.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Where you're going to be, excommunicated.
Yeah, right.
Bad. We're talking about identifications. Now let's take in consideration of an abusive father who has had a little bit of a stroke. And no one ever took note of it. He just had this major personality change at some point. Maybe he's 35 years old. And from that point forward, instead of being this loving man, kind, he just said the most hateful things to even his own children. I'll wait. Well, wait till we pass these people here.
Howdy.
So his most intelligent child, he says, "You're an idiot. You are so..." And then he uses all these pejorative terms that are politically incorrect. Goddamn this, goddamn that, goddamn this, and you can't figure out shit from Shinola. So this kid who had a loving father who was very earnest and his words were guiding him, suddenly has an off voice coming at him, and he's learning to identify himself as an idiot. So his whole family's watching this boy turn from a bright boy into an idiot.
Right.
Because his identity now is latched onto his father's words. But at some point in time, someone comes along and peels back the dirt, gives the kid a washing, so that the kid is able to see none of that was true. He's not all of these things he thought he was, even though he thought it for a long time. So you're saying you thought you were the self you thought you were. And then when you said to me, I'm a stranger, I say that's equal to opening the door to finding out who you really are that you didn't know.
Right.
The layers.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Right.
The moment you say I don't know myself is the beginning of learning.
Right.
The moment you go along with all your images of yourself,
Yeah.
and people will take slingshots to those images and crash them.
Right.
If they don't like them. Even if your images are a good portrayal of you. People are shits. And they're jealous and petty and envious. And we live in a world that says, have you no shame? Don't you know how fucking arrogant you are to walk around cocky, that confident, feeling good about yourself? No one does that. You have a mental illness. Putting on an identity, hoping that you'll wear that, because they wear it. And they think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Maybe you went to the core to see that there is this life that we then try and put in a box. And you stopped identifying with the boxes. And I get the chills because I feel like you've done that. You do that frequently.
Yeah.
Where you transcend personhood and your person becomes more cosmic-hood. And it's not some fucking magical Eastern thing.
Right.
It's what children have.
Yeah.
The moment they forget, they cry and they forget all their troubles, they're in that cosmic, joyous
sorta,
state.
it's
I'm
like-
not talking about anything, that's the Vedas.
Right. It's taking a break from your assumptions, letting go of your assumptions. What is mental illness? Well, mental illness is largely the assumptions that we hold. about ourselves and our identity, and so what's the root problem behind most illness is, how we feel about it. And how do we decide how we feel about it? Well, we decide it mentally. We tell ourselves a story about it. So, a lot of, depression and negative, feelings that we identify with, they come from the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And, but do we ever really question, what is the self? What is the self that is ill? Have I ever even inquired into that part, enough to be able to determine that, okay, this sick person, who is sick and who is the person, and what is sick, and what is the illness? Why do we consider it an illness? Is it an illness because it's convenient for us to label it as such so that we can make a prognostic so that we can take the correct medicine, or is there some other purpose for deciding that we have some specific illness?